You are watching NovaNow.tv, independent community media for Northern Virginia.
Good afternoon. I have two girls who attend Broad Run High School, and in light of this, what I'm holding, this bombshell email, I respectfully ask that the board resign. You too, Scott Ziegler. I mean, you guys, you're all busted for lying and orchestrating a cover-up, and you're digging yourselves in deeper and deeper each day that goes by. Do the taxpayers and families of Loudoun a favor and resign today. Please let us have a fresh start. Let us get back to the core mission of a school system, which is keeping children safe and educating them, math, reading, science, history, etc. Parents are done having a social justice agenda and your politics shoved down our kids' throats. Please resign. The sooner you resign, the sooner our community can start to heal and start a new chapter. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me a whopping 60 seconds to speak to you tonight. You may not listen to me, but my voice will be heard. You all have become obsessed with your own safety over the last few months, doing everything that you can to protect yourself from a bunch of domestic terrorists, which normal people refer to us as moms. $3 million security budgets to TSA-style pat-downs just to enter this room, all of it to protect a few adults from the people that they are supposed to serve. And what is painfully obvious is your lack of concern for the children of this community. Where is the outrage for their safety? That's right, there is none. You're sitting in those seats to serve yourself, not us. You've severely underestimated the power that a mother holds, and we will not stay silent so that you can stay comfortable. We will not sit down, shut up, or back off. If you won't fight for the safety of our kids, we certainly will.
Ron in the seat.
Tonight, I will not waste my 60 seconds on any of you sitting up there, as it is abundantly clear you do not listen to what your constituents want or need. Tonight, I am addressing all Loudoun County parents, grandparents, tax-paying citizens, and residents and children. While the Loudoun County School Board Superintendent and Board of Supervisors have tried their damnedest to silence us, to shut us down and keep us quiet from exposing all their lies, cover-ups, and failures that have directly impacted and affected our children in this county, I am here to tell you that there is a movement of parents who will never be stopped, never be silenced, and will never back down when it comes to protecting our children from your abuse. I will continue to pray that you will allow God back in your hearts and soul so that you may find the grace to do what is right for our children. Resign or be removed.
Madeline.
I'm Maddie and in 8th grade, but in the next 8 months, I'm going to be walking the halls of a public high school. You've covered these assaults like you spilled your bottles. It's ridiculous and unreasonable on how Loudoun County is approaching this situation. More than 1 in 5 girls have been assaulted on school grounds. You think moving this criminal will help? What would help him is that he's locked up and suffer the consequences like we learned when we were 5. It's morally wrong what he did, but a new school just means more new victims for him. Something needs to happen and things need to change. Everyone knew this was going to happen, just a matter of time. When will you listen? Are you striving that hard for national attention? Time's up. If you're going to treat every situation like this and act so unprofessional, then maybe you should just resign, just like your bestie, Beth Bartz. One day, most of y'all will be recalled, and the parents will keep their promise. Just watch one by one.
The entire school board knew that a girl was raped at Stonebridge. That is a fact. Scott Ziegler lied to everyone during the June 22nd school board meeting when he said that no assaults happened in LCPS bathrooms. That is also a fact. Corbo, Reeser, Bartz, and Sirotkin released statements claiming that they didn't know about a rape at Stonebridge. That was a lie. What is clear to me and many others is that LCPS, the school board, and Scott Ziegler covered up a sexual assault so that they could pass a controversial policy, 80-40. You people are disgusting, putting your own personal agenda over our children's safety. Mr. Ziegler, resign. Sirotkin, lawyer up. You too, Corbo.
Suzanne Satterfield.
The jig is up. The majority of us have been patient, respectful, and have followed the rules. All while Ziegler, Ellis, Jones, Byard, among others at LCPS and on the school board have lied and played games with the parents. Children learn from example. They spend most of their waking hours in their K through 12 years at school. You should be honored to have access to our children and show them what a good leader can be. Yet you do the exact opposite. You lie and you conspire to implement your political agenda into the schools, all while trying to brainwash the kids and then leave them in the dust when it comes to learning and safety. Staff at Parkview has been silenced by their administrative staff and risk being fired for not aligning with the political agenda that has been pushed in their school, yet they continue to have the lowest graduation rate in the county. Ms. Sheridan, it's time for you to resign. Don't forget to hold the door for Reeser, Corbo, and Sirotkin on your way out.
Colin Doctor.
Good evening. I have a question for Dr. Ziegler. If we're now setting a precedent, this isn't even a shot, I just mean this as a question. If we set the precedent of using Time Magazine as the source for justifying the bathroom prop policy, then I'd like to point your attention to the October 12th New York Times article by David Leonhardt that says that the risk to COVID for children is so low it's difficult to quantify. There's tons of other literature out there. I follow Dr. Marty Makari. He talks about how the risk is higher of getting struck by lightning than it is for children dying of COVID. There's actually been probably somewhere about 12 cases of children who didn't have a pre-existing comorbidity who have died over the course of the entire epidemic based on studies that they've actually performed. He's the professor of surgery at Johns Hopkins University. So tonight I would ask you, can we get a motion to remove masks or make them optional for parents, give them the option to opt out for their children? Thank you.
Guy Goddard.
What should I say to people that don't listen? These are the words I heard Sunday evening. When the light shows up, darkness must leave. The destructive work you are doing has brought darkness to our schools. Critical race theory, coming after parents and teachers, hiding the truth. You were clearly aware of the sexual assault at Stonebridge, but kept it hidden, denied it, and proceeded to pass your policy. You are likely not listening now, but in a sense, it doesn't matter. The world is listening. And more importantly, our battle is not against you, but against the powers of this world's darkness and against the spiritual forces of evil. You are on the wrong side of the battle. You will lose. We will not be silenced. We will not stand by while our children are being harmed mentally, spiritually, and even now physically by your mismanagement, malfeasance, and evil policies. The world is watching and truth will prevail. The light is shining. All of you must go, and we will take back our schools.
Aaron Smith.
Okay. You just had hundreds of students walk out of the Loudoun County high schools today because they feel unsafe in schools. You haven't listened to parents or students for years. And now the students feel as if walking out is their only choice to be heard. You've all spent more time cleaning up and covering up this mess than actually preventing it. Did any of you even respond to this email on May 28th from Dr. Ziegler? Or was that email just business as usual? Was that email alarming to anyone? This is just the tip of the iceberg. I suspect the 7,000 plus emails sent to the school board confidential email address the week of the first sexual assault in May will have a lot more details. We are not here to impact elections, Brenda. We are here long after November 2nd, watching everything this board does. Get comfy, because we aren't going away.
Brandon Michon.
I expected more honesty and integrity out of the people sitting up on this dais. Every single one of you should be ashamed. Scott Ziegler, you're the highest paid employee in the county. I think you should live up to the position. We've asked and asked and asked and asked for transparency and dialogue and discussion. We've asked for a town hall. Obviously, there's reasons why you don't want to have a town hall, because you don't want to answer the tough questions. I implore you all to next week sit up here, face the hard questions, answer from the citizens, the parents, the relatives of those of the county and the children. I expect you guys to be able to handle hard questions. And if you're not willing to do so, you shouldn't be sitting up there. And to Denise Corbo, fly in from your remote location, wherever that is, and be in here in person. You're elected officials. Act like it. Raise the freaking bar and have some integrity, all of you.
Carrie Michon.
You label us as domestic terrorists, have us standing out in the cold wind to wait to speak to you, and you name November as Family Engagement Month? Who are you people? LCPS is the house of horrors. You have buried a sexual assault to keep from derailing your precious 80/40 initiative. All children need to be protected, regardless of how one identifies. However, your embracing of a bathroom policy, knowing full well it could promote sexual abuse, is anti-woman. Props to all the kids who called you out today by staging a walkout in support of the 2 victims and an untold number of others. There is something ominous in the quoted sum of $36,000 to FOIA emails from the past 6 months that have the word sexual assault in them. What is lurking in that sinister number of 100,000 documents? Your wicked potion of porn and grooming books that came through Ashley Ellis is despicable. It's long past raising the bar. Every last one of you must go. Ziegler, Ellis, every last one of you resign.
Kelly Michon.
Wow, the world feels really heavy lately, huh? Thank goodness for babies, to remind us of all the hope and promise of the future. This little guy will be the class of 2039 in LCPS. So let's empower our students and make LCPS a safe place for everyone, especially our young women. Let's empower our students to end sexual assaults and harassment, to end racially based assaults and harassment, to end any assault or harassment to anyone for any reason. Let's empower them to communicate and to understand resources available to them, to empower them to understand and internalize what consent means towards others and for themselves. Let's work together, students, parents, teachers, and administrators, to give these kids the best possible environment to learn, because that's why we're here.
Aaron Dunbar.
I want you all to imagine a young girl walking down the hall of her school. She enters the girls' bathroom and a boy follows her into the stall. A boy she trusted. The girl, guilty of nothing more than being in the wrong place at the wrong time, is forced to the ground where she is assaulted, raped, and sodomized. She's in pain in places no child should ever have to feel pain, and mortified over having her body violated. Can you picture her? A 15-year-old body bruised and sore, her mind and heart battered by what she just endured. Now imagine this was your daughter. Imagine it was you that got that call, Ian, or you, Denise, wherever you are. Would you have still turned a blind eye to this predator being quietly moved to a different school where he could attack someone else's daughter? Would you accept Scott's pathetic excuses and careless decisions being covered up by the people who are supposed to protect our children? The lack of action by anyone on this board left the Smith family as targets and another young girl to be violated, and that falls on all of you. Fire Scott Ziegler for his gross negligence, and if you haven't hired an attorney yet, I'd recommend you all find one.
Elizabeth Perrin.
For the record, my outrage is real. Mr. Ziegler, you lied to every one of us. You knew what you were doing and you lied. You knew that the rapes had taken place and you lied. You have broken our trust. You must resign. Brenda, you stood at a press conference with where the prior administration was blamed. Really? You are the prior administration. How can you blame someone else for your own failure? You have broken our trust and you must resign. The rest of you knew the truth. We know that you knew the truth. You didn't do anything to step up and change the situation. You must resign. You have broken our trust. Do not blame school administrators for your ineptitude. They are honorable people and they don't deserve the stench that you put forward. We are not domestic terrorists, we are parents.
Amy Yar.
Mr. Ziegler, under your short reign here, you have targeted teachers from speaking out, branded us as domestic terrorists, attempted to silence parents, fostered a hyper-sexualized culture in our schools, lied about the May rape, and then quietly transferred the rapist where he raped again. Ms. Sheridan, as chair, you should be leading an effort to replace Ziegler, but your leadership has been nothing short of embarrassing. You could have spoken up when Ziegler was lying about the assaults, but you didn't. In fact, when Mrs. Bartz asked if anyone here was aware of the 2018 Tuscarora incident, you sat silently pretending to have no knowledge. Ms. Reeser, Ms. Corbo, Mr. Sorokin, and Mr. Beatty, all four of you lied about your knowledge of the May 28th rape. You can wordsmith that all you want, but this community sees right through it. Your single greatest priority is to keep our kids safe, and that has been a complete abject failure, so you can resign now with some sense of dignity or wait to be recalled in disgrace. As an FYI, our recall efforts are on fire.
Brand.
Fire.
You made the news again by lying, covering up rapes for tyranny and for targeting parents. We demand justice for our children. We demand you abandon political ideology and agenda contrary to providing excellence in education. We demand you focus on instituting policies that are safe and following protocols intended to keep our children safe. We demand you respect the sanctity of our families and honor our God-given rights and the Supreme Court ruling giving parents the primary control over their children's education. We demand you abandon agendas and politics and get your focus back on your primary job, which is safety and education for all of our students. We demand the resignation of Scott Ziegler. We demand the resignation of Brenda Sheridan and Atusa Reeser. We have led this board to destroy, you have led this board to destroy our schools, harm our children, and divide our community, and we demand action.
Mr. Ziegler, on May 28th, when he sent this email to the school board after he found out about the alleged sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl by a boy wearing a skirt in a girl's bathroom at Stonebridge High School. In the email, you seem more bothered by the fact that the girl's dad was at the school using profanity after his daughter had been allegedly raped than about the rape itself. Why is that, Mr. Ziegler?
Also, why at the June school board meeting did you state that the district had no record of sexual assaults in bathrooms, knowing full well an alleged sexual assault had occurred a month prior? Did it have anything to do with the transgender policy that you were determined to enact that was opposed by the majority of the parents in our county? How convenient. Also, why was the same boy who was wearing a skirt in the first alleged rape allowed to be moved to a new school and allegedly attack another girl? Parents want answers to these questions, Mr. Ziegler. You make more than $200,000 a year. Apparently, that's not enough to motivate you to keep our children safe. One thing is certain, Mr. Ziegler, you and Buddha Bibaraj need to be fired. Our children deserve better than this.
Bree Bailey. Amanda Shallant.
Good evening. I brought back my sign today that states in big, bold letters, LCPS protects rapists, because that's exactly what this school system has done and what this board has allowed to happen. We all know the facts. LCPS covered up the assault, Dr. Ziegler lied about it, LCPS transferred the offender to another high school where he assaulted another child. This board and the school system puts children last, whether it's shuttering schools for several months after many other school systems in the state brought kids back, keeping healthy kids out of school on extended quarantines, or covering up rape. The bar cannot possibly be any lower. I call for immediate resignations of Dr. Ziegler and any of you that had knowledge of the rape this spring and this fall. Raise the bar or resign. Thank you.
Michael Miller.
Earlier you had a chart that you showed here on the projection scenarios. There's a couple things missing on here. Between 2019 and 2020, you actually showed that there was a decline, significant decline. You missed the word CRT on there as the reason for why that decline occurred. You also have on here that you plan that you're going to see a big jump, even though you saw a massive decline in what you expected. Do you really think that you're going to see an increase? Mr. Ziegler, you lied after 2 girls were sexually assaulted in the schools, and the school board, all of you, covered it up. There was one thing that you got right on here, and that's the word confidence, which pretty much describes this entire thing. If you want to see this go back up and people put their kids back in school, they need to have confidence. And the only way they're going to have confidence, if Mr. Ziegler, you resign, and all of you that are on this board resign. That's the only way we restore confidence and people come back to here.
Michael Rivera.
Here we are again at Groundhog Day. More scandals and more frustrated parents. When you wake up to a Washington Post article entitled, "Parents Claim They Have the Right to Shape Their Kids' School Curriculum, They Don't." That's in quotes. That is an alarm that cannot be ignored. Our school board and government believe that they own our children, but that statement cannot be further from truth or reality. I'm done being frustrated, shocked, disrespected, and unheard. Therefore, I am choosing to take responsibility for my family to preserve our rights and those of all parents that utilize the public school system. My name is Michael Rivera, and I am submitting my qualifications to fill Beth Bart's empty board seat in the Leesburg district to restore a public school system focused on academics, collaboration with parents, and the safety of our children.
Renee Camp.
I come again in the name of the Lord, and I'm here to declare that today is an open heaven and God has won this battle. You are just passing time. That's all you're doing. Because he doesn't win this fight by power or by might, but by his Spirit. We are also here to forgive you because we are children of God, and this is a country that is built on God. Children, obey your parents in all things. This is what the Bible says. The Bible also says, woe to those who call good evil and evil good, and that's what you're doing. Article 1, Section A calls marriage between a man and a woman constitutional. Also, Article 1, Section 16, we have freedom of rights. According to the Nuremberg Code 1947, informed consent is used for, you cannot use investigational medical therapies. So I'm reading all of that because you have taken an oath that you have broken and you will be held accountable for it.
Ann Miller.
What has become blatantly obvious to the world is this school system is terribly broken. You failed your top priority, keeping our children safe. This system needs to be fixed immediately. Mr. Ziegler and his staff, and Ms. Sheridan and Ms. Reesner and this school board have shown that you are not up to the task. You created this broken system. Our children need to be protected. We have no confidence in you. Fired Mr. Ziegler and his staff and then resign from the school board. Otherwise, you'll see us in court and we can talk about what's fake and phony.
Abby Platt.
Obama recently came to Virginia to campaign on behalf of a candidate and had the audacity to say, and I quote, "We don't have the time to waste on fake outrage that has been peddled to juice ratings. How dare you? I can assure you that our outrage is very real. That candidate and the former president are clearly out of touch with what's really happening here. To both of them, I say, get out of Virginia and get out of our schools. And to our superintendent and the school board, you should all resign today. We care deeply about the safety and the well-being of our children. 2 girls were raped, in school no less, and it was covered up. My outrage is very real, and it's very serious." Obama went on to say that we should talk about serious problems that affect serious people. If that's not serious, I don't know what is. So hear me now. This is serious.
Chris Michael. Aaron Roselle Poe.
School board members, are you aware? PTSD, depression, sleep disorders, eating disorders, loss of trust, anger, fear, suicide, just to name a few, are a result of sexual assault. As parents, we teach our children to go to a trusted adult or authority figure when they are hurt or in trouble. We send all of our students to our schools with the promise from this school board that they will be safe and protected. You preach your policies to make sure we, the parents, know this. You've lied to your community. You have failed our students. You have created anger amongst those who understand right from wrong. You've denied these events. You have permanently scarred children. This goes way beyond politics. This is about the safety and well-being of every child here. Our students and community deserve an explanation, and if you do not have one and continue to stand by your lies, then you all must resign.
Julie Sprinkle.
First, fire Ziegler. But here's my actual statement. It's really disgusting what some people are willing to sacrifice on the altar of their social agenda. If your agenda and your values cannot stand without you lying about them, then there is something wrong.
Rachel Mace.
When I tried to reach out to my board member in March, she seemed too distracted by death threats to address my concern. And what I heard was, I cannot perform my duties as your school board member until the Loudoun County Sheriff Office investigates these threats. So I'm sincerely calling on the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office to openly and transparently investigate board threats so that we can get back to work addressing rape and violence in our schools. Altusa is so convinced that you can't get the job done that she's welcoming federal intervention. Normal parents like me shouldn't be treated like terrorists. I sincerely want this matter put to bed now. so that our school board members can get back to work and not just campaign every day because the threat mafia is at large. As we know, these meetings are far more dangerous and terrifying than campaigning every day door to door for your favorite candidate. Also, you all should resign.
Eris Hess. Salama Pearson. Patty Benders.
In the Code of Virginia law, it describes the rights of parents. A parent has a fundamental right to make decisions concerning the upbringing, education, and care of the parent's child. This school board and Mr. Ziegler have continued to wage war with parents and implement your own political programs. Ms. Sheridan, I'm offended that you think parents are trying to push a narrative to win an election. No, this is about our children. This is about the safety of our children. You are putting politics over the safety of our children. You are so consumed with pushing race and gender that you sacrificed our children and didn't protect them. A young girl was sexually assaulted in May, and all of you knew about it. The guilty predator was put back into our Loudoun County schools to sexually assault a second young girl. You all should resign, and Mr. Ziegler, you need to be fired.
Dina Levy.
Hi, this board is simply amazing. Jesus wept and I weep inside about the condition of our public school systems in Loudoun County. I address the taxpayers. Look and see where your money's going and what's being done with it. Wake up. Policies forcing teachers and students to lie to children about their gender and recklessly allow biological boys into biological girls' bathrooms, already resulting in rape. And as you know, a massive cover-up by this board. Horrible. Who raped again at another school? Pornographic and pedophilic grooming and books and sexual content readily available to children in the classrooms, in the libraries, not to mention CRT, teaching kids to hate each other and hate themselves. How about just teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic? How about the basics, helping our students to be strong and resilient, supporting families? I pray you change or resign today. Thank you.
Daniel Brubaker.
Dr. Ziegler, in this room on June 22nd, Ms. Bartz asked you, do we have assaults in our bathrooms and our locker rooms regularly? You answered, to my knowledge, we don't have any records of assaults occurring in a restroom. At that time, you all knew of the alleged rape of a 14-year-old girl in a Stonebridge High School bathroom just 2 weeks prior because Dr. Ziegler had sent you an email about it the very afternoon of the incident. Under consideration was whether proposed policy 8040 giving any boy, even temporarily claiming to be a girl, access to girls' bathrooms and locker rooms would make girls less safe in school by creating opportunities for those intent on harming others. So each of you who on August 11th voted to pass policy 8040 did so with knowledge of this rape, which has this past week resulted in a conviction. For a school superintendent to lie to the public about a matter so central to student safety on the cusp of the school board vote that would recreate those same conditions in every public school bathroom in the county is unconscionable. Dr. Ziegler and those who passed 8040 despite such knowledge should resign. Also, 8040 should be immediately rescinded so that it can be properly considered in full light of the available information. Thank you.
Don Wodowski.
Mr. Ziegler, your time is up. You admitted your own negligence in failing to report sexual assaults in the school system. You endangered female students and should resign immediately and possibly be prosecuted for failure to report it. The civil litigation alone in the school system, because of Mr. Ziegler and the school board, is significant. and will cost the Loudoun County taxpayer enormous amount of money. The school board has created an environment of bullying, intimidation, and outright death threats to everyone involved in this mess. But Mr. Ziegler and the school board will not accept it. Resign so we can pick up the pieces and restore the school system to what it should be. Then maybe we can repair the damages to the reputation.
I'm a Loudoun parent with kids in this school system, and I'm here to expose further cover-ups, which just keep adding up. Pay attention, media. There's word now of yet another high school predator that's been transferred from Dominion to Woodgrove after he attacked a teacher. We have daughters at Woodgrove. There's also word of a Freedom High School teacher who's been transferred to Belmont Ridge 3 weeks ago after sexual impropriety with a student. It's been learned 5 years ago there was yet another sexual assault on a freshman girl at Tuscarora High School, which some on this board covered up. Scott, why are you so close to the Commonwealth Attorney? It seems like our kids are being used as pawns in some social reform game. Scott, why did you have a private, non-foiable meeting with the Commonwealth Attorney on October 15th at that fundraiser that you and I both attended? We witnessed it. Why am I still waiting on the page that was missing from the FOIA results on how you plan to spend the $11 million tied to your masking and testing mandates? Resign tonight, all of you, and end the mockery you've all brought in this great county.
Aaron Thomas.
Scott, I've seen the May 28th email you sent to the board informing them about the first rape. You lied to us and covered this up. You have a doctorate in education and didn't understand the question? And why did it take 2 rapes before you finally came to the mic? These cover-ups keep adding up, and the next time we'll do better argument doesn't work. This is now about our kids' safety and real equity and protecting them from you. Brenda, as chair of this nearly $2 billion organization, why weren't you at the mic? You hired this superintendent. You're just as much to blame for the embarrassment and legal liability brought onto this county as he is. And you ran on a platform of more recess. More recess. We have girls getting raped, teachers, subs, bus driver shortages, not to mention books in our schools that would make Masters and Johnsons blush. And you want more recess? I invite you all to take more recess and step down immediately. The dad got suspended jail time, and the rapist went free and raped again. And he did. You're all responsible, and it's time to go.
Alexander Lucas.
In 1813, Thomas Jefferson expressed a hope that public schools would become the keystone in the arc of our government. It was in this mindset, according to Jefferson, that local school districts give parents direct and ultimate control over how their children are educated. We hope to trust the management to our local board and are grateful to the teachers who guide our children's thoughts, especially during this pandemic. I seek only to remind those present that the entrusted safety of our children is paramount. I stand here extolling logic over passion and implore this board to ensure the safety of our children. As a concerned father and a citizen, I ask nothing more and expect nothing less. True to the Enlightenment beliefs of the foundation of public education, I hope my words bear the gravity of the situation for the safety of our children. Members of the board, a student who is concerned with personal safety cannot learn. I thank the chair and all assembled.
I brought this sign with me back in June, and now the truth is out. Imagine that. You guys are such pathetic liars. You think that enrollments are down because of COVID? You think that I took my kids out of public school because of COVID? You're not only liars, you're also delusional. I doubt that you have any decency left in you, but I would love if you prove me wrong and just resign.
Julia Weatherman.
With all the inclusivity, I'd like to exclude Mr. Hoyler from my comment. On October 12th, the school board proclaimed October 2021 as LGBTQ History Month. Instead, they should have proclaimed it as LCPS School Board History Month, because you are history, you will be remembered, and not in a good way. This is quite a stain on your reputations. Your policies, mandates, lies, and actions toward parents really show the level of your competency low. You failed, you failed, you failed, you failed. Everyone who's not here failed. You failed our children, you failed parents, you failed yourselves. And again, I do not want to discriminate any one of you. You all equally failed at doing your job. You all must resign. Now is a good time. And also, I have a prediction for you. So once there is a positive change in this school board, your enrollments will go up.
Anna Murray, Maureen Chambers,
Good evening. As a social worker, I spent most of my career working with both victims and perpetrators of sexual violence. I have spent much of my career working for a public school system. I have lost so much sleep over this. I have been a public school parent for 18 months. I have lost almost all confidence I've had in this system that I have championed for so long. Dr. Ziegler, in your email on May 28th, it is quite clear that you did not believe the victim. You mentioned counseling services for people who hurt her angry father, but nothing for her or other students who may have witnessed or heard about her sexual assault or who have been previously assaulted and may have been triggered by this. I ask for your resignation, every single one of you who knowingly misled us. Thank you.
Brian Downs,
Thought I'd change this up real quick and do a dialogue instead of a monologue. So your lack of response we'll assume is a yes. I'll start with a few quick questions. Is the school board comprised primarily of members of the Communist Party? I'd take that as a yes, seeing that the board wants to strip freedoms from the citizens, demonize parents who oppose their radical views, and exercise free speech. Second question, does the school board condone rape in the schools? Oh, apparently that's a yes too, because the board just got busted for trying to cover one up. Does the school board condone pedophilia? Oh, that's another yes. Seeing you support pedophilia books in our schools that you all approved, it's disgusting. Listen, why don't you be good little commies and resign now, please? Those of you, you know who you are. Get out.
Jeremy Wright,
Whoever sows injustice reaps calamity, and the scepter they wield in fury will be broken. That's Proverbs 22:8. Two young ladies were scarred forever. One because at some point our board decided their political agenda was a higher priority. This is the consequence of putting politics above the safety and well-being of our children. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, remember that? So we need a renewal on this board because your scepter's broken. Community trust has been destroyed. It doesn't matter where you're from, your religion, your skin color, or how much money you have. Everyone knows that this is wrong and something has to change, or more students will suffer. More children will become victims. We already know there are more. It's time for good, honest, hardworking people to step up and corrupt, indifferent ideologues to step down. Step down so teachers like me don't have to come up here to dissociate myself from you or resign their positions for a school system that is led by liars.
Sandy Sullivan,
My name is Sandy Sullivan, President of the Loudoun Education Association. It's time to bring the experts to the table. LEA has obtained signed authorization cards from the majority of certified LCPS employees. Your educators are spoken. They are ready to engage in collective bargaining with you. On October 19th, I submitted to all school board members a letter of certification for the authorization cards for certified employees. What happens now? It's time for a resolution. The school board, at LEA's and your employees' urging, will adopt the resolution for collective bargaining. In order to move forward, LEA urges you to include and discuss an agenda item at your November 9th school board meeting, which will lay out how LCPS will move forward with LEA to take the next steps for your employees. On another note, please know that LEA is supportive of the proposed pay increase for substitutes, although we urge you to remember the employees who have been pulled from their regular positions to cover classes and fill the holes. Do not forget the employees who have gone above and beyond. Bring the experts to the table.
Wally B.
Hello, and hello to all the folks waiting out in the cold and the wind when they could be in here comfortable, but waiting for a chance to speak. The board has decided that they want to discourage people from speaking, and that's what they're doing. I'm a graduate of public schools. My 4 kids went to public schools. My grandchildren just got withdrawn from public schools. The reason is, I'm watching my time here. The reason is one of my grandchildren came up and said, hey, I've been given a choice of 5 books to read for an English class. All 5 of them are very leftist. I said, well, why didn't you go in and say you want to pick out a classic and read that? She couldn't do it. Teacher said she couldn't. Parent went in, told the parent she couldn't do it. On the bookshelf is the same thing you say that you're not pushing. Ibrahim Kindi's Critical Race Theory. Given that, we pulled kids we pulled the kids out of school. Hope your budget gets cut.
Stephanie Markey.
This way, sir.
You will.
Mr. Ziegler, the whole nation knows you have lied about having no knowledge of the sexual assault on May 28th. The most disgusting part, you offered the Stonebridge students access to counselors if they had the misfortune of witnessing the father's disruptive behavior. Have you put yourself in the shoes of that poor man? Do you have any remorse for how you treated him, his entire family, after they were the true victims? You cannot possibly expect anyone in the school system to take you seriously now when it comes to matters of personal health and safety. You've never had the right to usurp the role of a parent, and now we have full view of how irresponsible and legitimately dangerous you are when it comes to our kids' protection. You, Mr. Ziegler, have zero standing or credibility. And when it comes to your COVID vaccine policy, we will not relinquish our right to privacy, our body autonomy, and our parental rights to care for our children exactly as we see fit. I call on every parent and teacher in Loudoun County to take back these rights and refuse to be pawns in this perverse game being perpetrated upon our families.
Brian Davison.
Over the last couple of years, we've heard of a lot of talk about misinformation and lies. And at least 8 of you must be considered masters at it. School board members claim that you can't talk about any facts related to a student event on campus. Yet we see press releases from other school districts when teachers assault students, when there's a student shooting incident. There's no law that prevents you from knowing the facts. You claim it will create bias. Yet judges see complaints all the time with detailed facts, and yet they remain impartial. On the flip side, you claim that you've already concluded you followed Title IX, and anybody who brings a Title IX student claim will lose. That's just utter hypocrisy and ridiculousness. Now, Mr. Hoyler, you chose to sit on the school board, and now you're aware that Felix Colacello is teaching in Seneca Ridge. He's a pedophile who sexually assaulted a girl in Trailside 2 years ago. She'll talk to you. Other students who came forward will talk to you. Colacello's neighbors will talk to you. You are responsible now.
Marie Dean.
Good evening. I am an LCPS employee and the mother of an LCPS student,
and I am not a domestic terrorist. I am also here to speak for many other employees and parents who are afraid to speak out. We have seen the deceitful and intimidating tactics used by this board and our own Justice Department to stifle our First Amendment rights and punish anyone who dares to speak up. I'd like to tell you now, contrary to what a former president just said, this culture war isn't phony, and our outrage isn't fake. I have personally witnessed students of all ages falling hopelessly behind because the priority of this board is equity studies, focus groups, and mandates instead of academic excellence and safe schools. I am requesting the resignation of anyone on this board who voted for Policy 8040, and Dr. Ziegler, you need to be fired.
Stacy Marcus. James Harmon. Chantel Cooper.
I've watched this school board feed off division and blame failures on others. You push policies to try and segregate parents while you accept funding to push your political motives in schools and introduced by hate. When politics, sexuality, and indoctrination should be kept out and replaced with more love for one nation under God. In my home, we love all. We have gay, black, white, Indian in our family, and we are all rooting together for Virginia to put children's safety first. All we parents wanted was to come together with a safe plan. But what is done in the dark has come to light. And you can't blame nobody but yourself. You can't blame the principal, the admin, or the teachers. John Beatty, you mentioned an investigation. Well, action speaks louder than words. Let's get to the bottom of what happened and where the policies and why the policies were pushed without considering the safety of our children's or a trial run. I demand a full investigation to hold those accountable who failed our children.
Good evening. I must start out by apologizing to you all. The National School Board Association defines school board members as persons elected by the people in their community to represent their values, views, and desires for the public schools in their district, as well as set standards for the performance of schools and superintendents. I am deeply sorry I have not shared my views and values to you. I am a single mother of 2 boys. I work full-time and attend night class as well as volunteer here in Loudoun County. In my divorce, I fought for my children to stay in Loudoun County schools. I have taken pride in the national education standards schools and teachers have helped students achieve. Unfortunately, I have not done my part. I stood silent while you debated a policy on gender inclusion but ignored safety concerns. I stood silent while members of this board villainized parents for being concerned about their children. Today, I can no longer stand silent. It has come to my attention that a student was attacked at school. Instead of immediately seeking medical attention and contacting the parents to find ways to best help the student, it was decided that this would be handled in-house. This is unacceptable. I will not stand silent any longer. You have asked me to trust you and the standards you set to keep my children safe as I send them to school. What are you going to do going forward to protect my children as they grow and learn here in Loudoun County?
Lindsay Fry. Peter Livingston.
With all the excitement of Beth leaving, I think you all are overlooking the work that she's leaving behind that will need to be done. Who will tell the parents to take it or leave it when they don't like your decisions? And who will threaten the superintendent? And who will organize your illegal quorums and private Facebook groups? Brenda won't have time to step up to the challenge because she's too busy going on talk shows claiming she spent last year trying to help the parents who wanted in-person learning. And Denise is too busy gallivanting around the country promoting her tax shelter while foregoing voting rights of her elected position. As you look to fill the clown shoes Beth leaves behind, I suggest you find a rep as good as Andrew appears to be. Did you know he's already had more town halls in 2 weeks than you all have had in the last 2 years? In these town halls, I've seen difficult issues discussed calmly by people who have differing political views. It's time for you all to put aside your politics, follow Andrew's lead, and engage with the community and return LCPS to the greatest community asset Loudoun County has and fill Beth's seat with a moderate who puts the students first.
Teresa Lieberman. Heather Frizzetti.
Over the course of the past year, this school board has deliberately and consistently pushed parents out of the dialogue. When parents are not given a place at the table, the end result is a system that reeks of dishonesty and corruption and lacks accountability and transparency. This school board has consistently withheld information, lied to the public, injected critical race theory into the curriculum, and then had the audacity to lie about it. Failed to report sexual assaults per the law, failed to release declining enrollment numbers to the public until recently, and my personal favorite, trying to pass funding for $3.8 million to install bulletproof glass for this building. Where's the money for our kids? Where's the money for their safety? What protections are in place to make sure that sexual assaults aren't happening in our bathrooms? Well, I did want to personally thank you this evening. You have single-handedly woken an entire county, a nation of parents who weren't paying attention before, including me. We're awake now and we won't stop.
Linda Killen.
May 28th, a student was raped in a school bathroom. LCSO was called and the incident had been reported to Ziegler. That same day, an email was sent from Ziegler to the school board detailing the incident per FOIA email. June 22nd, Bartz asked, "Do we have assaults in our bathrooms?" And Ziegler answered, "To my knowledge, we don't have any assaults occurring in our restrooms." July 8th, the student was charged, and by law, juvenile intake notified Ziegler. At that time, did LCPS perform a threat assessment as stated in policy 8290 prior to the involuntary transfer to Broad Run for that student? Why was the student not placed into an alternative educational program, and why did Ziegler say he never was notified by LCSO? Sergeant Chapman stated this weekend it's the responsibility of juvenile intake to notify the school superintendent. So his claim that he did not know, I don't know how that could be possible. An external investigation needs to be performed, and if there was a cover-up, there needs to be an accountability. Please, I want my community back. The community where transparency and honesty used to prevail, and safety and education was part of schools. Thank you.
Julia Jones.
I'm a graduate of Dominion High School and I go to JMU. Tonight I drove 2 hours to speak to you to express my disgust in the recent handling of the sexual assault cases. One of my closest friends is a victim and her life has forever been affected by that painful trauma. My question to you is this: why didn't you make the public aware of these sexual assaults as soon as they happened? Now it's out, you all knew and chose to betray the students and parents by covering it up. You were all elected to be trusted advocates for the safety and well-being of Loudoun County students. This includes knowledge of sexual predators. I demand that all of you who were in office during these sexual assaults resign immediately, including Superintendent Ziegler. Like my friend, these high school students will forever suffer the effects of these crimes, and each one of you are to blame. Resign now.
Jen Allen-Lockerman.
None of you grew up here, I think, but all of you put your chips that have been festering on your shoulders onto our kids using deceitful tactics, lies, paranoia, marketing to media, pandering, and selling our children out. You've made our school system the hunting ground. You had one vote, one say, one choice to tell the truth, to be a voice for our children. Every time you had that chance, you chose the wrong choice. All of you, many times, all of you did this over and over. There shouldn't be any politics or any agendas in this school, period. But you brought it. You know, I grew up in the school system. This was many years ago, decades ago. I brought my children back here because I knew what a great school system it was. What you did was change it into, again, this is now the hunting ground that you set up for our children.
Tiffany Polifko.
Parents, would you really want Father Government to have the last say about what happens in schools? How about about the village that sends your elementary-age child home with a comic book including graphic displays of sexual grooming? Would you stay silent because they know best? Do you want that village raising your kid while you take a back seat? Would you be fine with your child leaving a social emotional learning lesson about whiteism? Would you stay quiet while your white child hangs his head in shame? Or your darker-skinned child acknowledges her victimhood because the school knows best? Would you sit back and wait for your daughter to become a victim of rape because the school system played a game of CYA and bounced the perpetrator to another school? Parents, do not be afraid to call out this evil. It will only grow if you remain silent. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored.
Amy Miller. Ted Williamson.
So I have two daughters remaining in LCPS, unfortunately. Never did I imagine that I would have to have a discussion with them about not using the bathroom in schools. We encourage them to hold it until they get home. That's sad. But they tell us that they won't go to the bathroom unless they have a friend. That's a little more sad. It's because of the policies that you've put into place. I'm not against trying to protect everyone, right? But when it's at the detriment to so many, that's pretty disgusting. And it happened. What we said wouldn't happen, happened. It was the red herring you spoke about, Dr. Ziegler. It was the red herring you spoke about after you knew it happened, exactly how it happened. That was the exact red herring. That's disgusting.
Jackie G.
There are so many issues to talk about, but I'm totally opposed to the vaccine mandate for athletes and students. It's a violation of medical privacy to force disclosure of vaccination status. It's a violation of an individual's right to choose what they put in their bodies. There are known health risks to getting the COVID-19 vaccine. It has already injured and killed many. According to Open VAERS, there are 770,000 reports of injury related to the vaccine, including 23,000 permanently disabled, 7,800 heart attacks, and 16,000 deaths. Natural immunity is very real. It's been proven to be more effective than the vaccine, and for some strange reason, this fact is being totally ignored. And now there's clear proof that even if you get the vaccine, you can still get and spread COVID. Why would you mandate testing only for those unvaccinated?
Using a cough drop, participating in a science experiment, eating food provided by a teacher, opting out of an SOL or MAP test, taking a different way home, staying late for an after-school club or activity, getting your picture taken. These are all activities that require parental consent before a student may participate in them. Alarmingly, the list of what students may do without parental consent is short. Here's part of that list. Boys may use girls' bathrooms and locker rooms, and girls may use boys' bathrooms and locker rooms. Policy 8040 is not protecting any of our students, transgender or not. Policy 8040 needs to be scrapped and revised to protect all of our students and to be in accordance with the Code of Virginia. Thank you, guys.
Tori Walden.
So I'm back again for another week and have a couple questions. What does it take for a student to be removed from a general classroom to alternative options? And are teachers or staff being directed by administration to not write incident reports on physical altercations? In general, we know the answers to these questions. We've kind of seen it from some emails that have been shared through FOIAs, but I'm speaking specifically about incidents at a local middle school where my son is zoned to go, but is not attending because we chose to homeschool. We've heard stories from friends about physical altercations as recently as last week of a student stabbing another student with a pencil and then being still in the classroom to continue with general education. At what point do students get removed?
Joe Mosley.
All right, guys, I brought the email too, but the question is, how stupid do you think parents are? And Scott Ziegler, Dr. Ziegler, you in particular, you sat in front of us, you sat in front of the media, you sat in front of everyone and said you weren't aware of any sexual assaults. You said sexual assaults weren't happening, and you sent an email, a very timely email, referencing the exact thing that you told the world didn't happen. So how stupid do you think we are? You're already in a government capacity telling us that you care more about our children than we do. It's absolutely false. It's ridiculous. If my kids' care was entrusted to you, I would probably be suicidal. You guys are incompetent, you're criminally negligent, and you need to do everyone a favor and resign. All of you, resign. Just do it.
Loudoun County has become the epicenter of parents fighting for their children's education, and now you have to add their safety to that. Pursuant to Virginia law, the superintendent was required to report the sexual assault on May 28th to the Department of Education in July. Because he failed to comply, he is subject to sanctions authorized in Virginia Code 22.1-65, which state that he may be assessed a fine, suspended for a limited period, or removed from office. I don't understand why he's still sitting in his seat. Also, a FOIA request was submitted for communications with the words sexual assault or rape for the past 5 months, most of which was over the summer. The search resulted in over 100,000 responsive documents for a cost of $36,000 and makes me wonder whether or not there were more than just the 2 alleged sexual assaults, or whether in fact you knew more than non-specific details. We'll find out soon.
Austin Levine.
You believe that many of us who come here each week have fake outrage. You sneer at us, ignore us, all of our concerns are a waste of time. No one is truly outraged. You think it is a trumped-up culture war. You think we are divisive and hostile because we stand up for our children and disagree with some of the curriculum and reading material you push on our kids. You believe because a journalist from a conservative-leaning website uses actual journalism and uncovers information of lies, misdirection, incompetence, and crimes that we should ignore it. Let me remind you of your mission statement: to work closely with students, families, and the community to provide a superior education, safe schools, and a climate for success. You have failed at each one. Tonight, the citizens of Loudoun call on you to start an independent investigation into the school system, its administration, and this board, and the dysfunction that is destroying it, endangering its students, and pitting neighbors against neighbors. Saying, "Let's go, Brandon," no, we should change it to, "Let's go, Brenda."
Andrew Essex. Alex Dale.
The Loudoun County School Board does not reflect the views of the majority of our voters it serves. Our superintendent, Scott Ziegler, has proven he's willing to lie and hide truths about the county's issues. He and the other members of our school board have proven that our children are not safe in the bathrooms and the hallways of our school. The student-athlete vaccine mandate just targets a small, not at-risk group to push an agenda. Parents have a say and will be involved.
Peter Leoni. Gabriel Proxy.
Good evening. I'm here to demand that Scott Ziegler be fired. Fact, Scott Ziegler knew a female student was raped by a male student in the girls' bathroom. Fact, Scott Ziegler notified the school board on May 28th that the sexual assault occurred. Fact, Scott Ziegler on June 22nd denied knowledge of any sexual assaults occurring in bathrooms and later tried to clarify that he only meant sexual assaults by transgender students in bathrooms, which was another lie. Fact, Scott Ziegler on October 15th attempted to apologize because they failed to provide a safe environment for students. Fact, Loudoun County under Scott Ziegler's watch has failed to report multiple sexual assaults in schools as required by Virginia law. All these facts demonstrate a toxic combination of incompetence, dereliction of duty, and an intent to deceive and mislead the parents of Loudoun County by Scott Ziegler, assisted by certain members of this board. The fact that the taxpayers of this county are paying Scott Ziegler $295,000 a year to cover up sexual assaults in our schools is beyond comprehension. Scott Ziegler should be immediately terminated for this travesty of leadership. Let's go, Brandon!
I've seen groups here today for diversity and inclusion, and I want to say that I strongly support those groups. What happened has nothing to do with that. A girl was raped, you covered it up, then you sent her sexual predator to another school and put other girls in danger. Do you not have any daughters? Do you not have any nieces? You all have no shame, no shame. You all should resign, but before you do that, you should fire Superintendent Ziegler, fire Ziegler, and resign. Thank you.
Are you guys punking me over there, the media? Have you ever seen a bigger bunch of morons in your life? The level of arrogance of the people that I'm addressing the camera, so I'm not actually talking to them. They don't care anyways. I've never seen such arrogance and contempt for their constituents and students in my life. They are an absolute joke. How many times has Ziegler been told he should be fired tonight? He should go. Actually, I think Ziegler, you need to resign on South Park. You're useless, right? You're a coward. Sheridan, I expect you to resign on Chuck Todd. Maybe there'll be another news story dropping that night too, huh? But Debbie, you just need to walk away, man. No offense, but you do absolutely nothing except nod your head as if you're a bobblehead. You do nothing. Atusa, you're trashed. How dare you push the narrative that parents like us are domestic terrorists? And Sorokin, how much more money are you going to get from Soros? We know about that money. I'm not done. It's going to keep coming, right? I also want to ask one more thing. Why are you requiring parents to sign an NDA just to view their parents' curriculum? You all know what I'm talking about. And there's going to be more coming. There's going to be another sex assault story dropping this week. You better pay mine. Ziegler, you got to go, my man.
A wise man by the name of Thomas Sowell was quoted saying, "It is hard to imagine a more stupid or more dangerous way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong." You, Mr. Ziegler, are wrong, and you, the school board members, are wrong. And we are all here telling you that you need to resign and pay the price for being wrong. Children have been hurt, physically as well as mentally. They should not have to pay the price for your wrongdoings. We all make choices and pay consequences to our choices, good or bad. That is the message we should be sending. Accountability. Can you say that you are accountable? Ask yourself. Are you taking accountability? Make right by your wrongs. Resign, all of you. And by the way, it's freezing outside and there are small children out there because you can't handle it. Shame on all of you.
Randall James. Henny McEnroe. Dana Wilder.
I am calling for the resignation of Superintendent Ziegler and the entire Loudoun County School Board, and here's why. We put our trust in you to represent us in good faith, and you have broken that trust. At the June 22nd meeting, you were asked if there had been any assaults in bathrooms in LCPS, and you lied and said no. On October 15th, you stated that you were confused about the question being asked at the June 22nd meeting. That was another lie, and we know this because you sent a letter to the school board on May 28th informing them that a sexual assault took place at Stonebridge. On October 6th, the same student assaulted another student at Broad Run. You neglected to inform us that a student accused of sexual assault was being transferred to Broad Run. You not only failed to ensure the safety of the LCPS community, but also lied multiple times. You work for us and we pay your salary. We also paid for this building that you used to bully us by only giving us 60 seconds to address our grievances with you and only allowing one person in this meeting room at a time. You continue to be condescending and smug and never look us in the eye when we are speaking to you. We the people are holding you accountable and you need to resign.
Caitlin Hornmaker.
I want you to imagine you had a daughter. Now imagine she was sexually assaulted in a school bathroom, yet you were marked as a terrorist after speaking out for her. If you can make a child stay home because they refuse to wear a mask, you can also make a child stay home for raping another student. I don't even feel safe within the walls of my own high school anymore because of this. Ziegler and everyone on the Loudoun County School Board needs to be held accountable. You knew this happened once you reviewed 80-40 for passing, yet you lied about it. The only reason you even said anything is because the situation went viral. Your reputation is already tarnished. Do everyone a favor in Loudoun County and resign. Remember, it could be your child next. Thank you.
Mark Lynn.
Good evening. Matthew 18:6. But if any of you cause one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for he or her to have a large millstone hung around their neck and into the depths of the deep of the sea be drowned. You all knew. That's wrong. If you don't fear judgment here, please, there's still time for repentance, but part of repentance is turning and doing the opposite. Whatever that may be. If you believe in God or not, you will one day. And what you've done to these little children is wrong. Thank you.
My name is Rasha Saad, and I'm the president of Loudoun for All. We are a group of parents in Loudoun County who have decided to stand up to the misinformation and hateful rhetoric, using facts and rational problem solving. We stand against this attempt to make our community, our home, a political battleground, dividing us and pitting us against each other. We don't believe our school system is perfect, but we do believe that advocating for meaningful policy change is how we make it better. We believe that policy change should be based on facts and evidence, not misinformation and lies. We believe that every student has a right to a safe and equitable teaching environment, one in which each child can thrive and grow. We welcome all discourse and believe that the more voices are heard, the better our policies will be. Collaboration and inclusiveness is how we improve our schools, and we hope that parents will stand up in support of policies enacted based on facts and science. If you are a parent who wants to see real and meaningful change, please stand with us.
James Cooper. Nicole Staverk.
Good evening. This is my first ever school board meeting that I've attended, but I can no longer stay silent after all that's been going on here in Loudoun County. You want us labeled as domestic terrorists simply because of our interest in our kids' education? What kind of parents would we be if we weren't involved in our kids' education? I want my child to learn reading, writing, math, science, and the history of our country, the good and the bad. I do not want him learning to hate himself because of the color of his skin. And how about the fact that you all knew about the sexual assault back in May, then the second assault that happened just a couple weeks ago? What you put these poor families through, especially the Smith family, is unconscionable. Dr. Ziegler, you lied when asked about bathroom assaults. You didn't misunderstand the question, you just blatantly lied. For that alone, you need to resign or be fired. In fact, all of you who knew and stayed quiet should resign. Shame on you.
Michelle Quinn.
Hi, Christians are being called intolerant and haters if we disagree with the LGBTQ movement. When did not agreeing with or not loving something become hate? I don't love broccoli, but that doesn't mean I hate it. I just don't prefer it. I may not love the ideas you're pushing for, but that doesn't mean I hate these precious souls of the LGBTQ community who are loved by God just as much as the rest of us. He created man and woman in marriage the way he did because he knows what's best for us, and his way provides the most peace. That's what I long to see for those of this community. The actions you've taken to normalize LGBTQ lifestyles are now impacting kids that wouldn't have ever questioned their sexual preference or identity. Now they feel the need to experiment. I disagree that part of this remedy is to allow transgender kids to use the bathrooms of their opposite biological sex. This will hurt more kids, namely girls, than it will help. Girls feel uncomfortable and wonder if someone will come in and harm them now. And ladies, would you like to change your tampon or poop next to a biological male? Please put yourselves in these girls' shoes. When you suppress the rights of the majority to help the rights of a minority, it's not the right solution. There are better ways.
Lucy Salazzo.
Private medical information to include invasive weekly testing results or vaccination statuses should be left up to the individual to share and not required or forced, so that an employee can obtain a livelihood or a child can have equal access to programs and sports teams. I consider routine medical testing to be part of a treatment in which the results are my private health information. I also consider them to be invasive, discriminatory, and causing of undue burden. Per the ADA, all employers who inquire invasively into their employees' medical status or who treat those employees differently based on their perceived medical statuses are subject to penalization. And for any parent listening, I don't know if you know this, but if your child gets sick with the COVID, this information, due to contact tracing, is spread in an unsecure email to staff members to include their full names and health status. As a parent, I never gave consent to LCPS to share my child's private health information. Provide a consent form for all these tyrannical rules, and also an opt-out option.
Good evening. My name is Gary Katz. This is my first time addressing this board, and I'd appreciate your full attention. I've been watching with the rest of the community what's been happening in Loudoun County, and if you care about this community, I would implore you to please resign, all of you, including Dr. Ziegler. You knew about the events in May. You lied to the public. Some of you have used this for political gain, Mr. Beatty, very specifically, claiming you want investigations and you want hearings to find out who knew what and when, but we all know that you knew. The best thing that you can do for this community is to humbly resign, let this community move forward, let this community heal, and put this chapter behind us. Thank you.
Gwen Armstrong.
Lord, I bring before you the reports of children raped and abused, then covered up. I invite heaven and earth here as a witness, and I ask that you expose every wickedness, every injustice, every evil that is and has been covered and hidden here in Loudoun County Public Schools. For it is written, all scripture is God-breathed. Woe, judgment is coming to those judges and magistrates who issue evil statutes, who constantly record unjust and oppressive decisions, to those who try to hide their plans from the Lord, whose deeds are done in a dark place, to him who builds his house by acts of unrighteousness and by injustice, judgment is coming, to oppressors who devise wickedness and plot evil on their beds. Woe to you, self-righteous leaders, hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup, but inside you are full of extortion and robbery and self-indulgence. For you are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but inside are full of dead men's bones and everything unclean.
Hi, my name is Todd Kaufman. I'm on the board of Loudoun for All. However, today I'm speaking as a parent of a Loudoun County student. Now, it's not a secret that Loudoun County schools are under fire and have been distracted from the chaos over the past 18 months. This should not hide that Loudoun County has real challenges that need to be addressed, from staff shortages at all levels to reviewing and updating outdated policies around sexual assault. There is change that needs to be made. While Loudoun has made major inroads on inclusion and equitable standards for all students, we still have more work to do. We as parents and elected officials must stand up to the misinformation and hateful rhetoric. We must use facts to come up with real solutions. We must stand up against this attempt to turn our community and our schools into a political battleground. We must support advocating for meaningful policy change without threats and without bullying of those with other views. I come here today to ask the school board and the community to help us get back on track. All ideas, debates, and political discourse should be welcome, and we ask all for everyone's support. Thank you.
Mr. Ziegler, are you listening to us or are you working on a computer tonight? I'm the father of a 13-year-old at Brambleton High School, middle school. I do not trust you, Mr. Ziegler. I do not trust you to ensure the education or the safety of my daughter in the school system which you represent and are paid $295,000 a year to lead. I don't care if it's 3 months or 9 months. You're responsible, and you have failed us as parents. We will not be silent. We are the protectors of our children, and we outright refuse to co-parent with you, with this board, with this county, and this state education system. You have proven incapable of protecting our children. As such, I am aggressively calling and funding for the prosecution of you for what has happened to these children in these 2 different high schools. 2 sexual assaults by the same boy identifying himself as a girl, for which we warned you about in June would occur.
Megan R.
I think you skipped someone. Sorry, it's a little cold out there. Blowing away and a little wet. Fire Ziegler. I'll start with that. Secondly, board, let me just remind you of the oath that you took. You said that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia. You have failed miserably. School board norms, your policy 1035. I will maintain open communication with the community at large. Fail. Members will adhere to policy 1030. I'll come back to that one. Number 8, comply with all applicable laws, board policies, and regulations. Failed yet again. Okay, policy number 1030. I will promote the highest ethical standards. I recognize that the residents of Loudoun County have entrusted me with the education and the development of their children. I mean, I don't even have time to go through this. You failed. Open meeting policy. Brenda Sheridan, I sent you an email, didn't get a response. Shocker. I also asked you last meeting why we couldn't sit in any of these open chairs. Still nobody in here. We're out there blowing away. Let's see.
We're working on something with that. Participation by the public. You're having a closed meeting. It's illegal. It's breaking the law. You have to go through a whole situation to change a policy, which you're breaking every meeting.
Good evening. Good evening. I go to Banneker Elementary. This is a wonderful small school I'm sure you're familiar with. The teachers and students there are great. I love Banneker. It is right now being forced to mandate masks. There's nothing wrong with Banneker. It's what Banneker is being mandated. People have come again to try to ask you to stop with the masks and the critical hate theory, but you're not listening. We need more people to come up and speak. I am 10 years old and I speak, so that sets the age limit. Anybody over 10 can easily do it, and if you're under 10, I encourage you to speak too. Don't let the board intimidate you. There are too many people that are signed up to speak that don't show up. It takes all of us. We all need to come together and speak up.
Ryan Coppage is next on the list. I just want to make sure that if he's not here, thank you. So we'll go to Adam Rapolsky.
Aristotle referred often to humans as the speaking beings and believed our use of common nouns were perhaps the greatest delineation between us and all of God's creation. I want to thank my school board representative, Ian Sorokin, for doing just that, speaking. My wife and I this week had the opportunity of 15 minutes of time with Ian to voice our concerns with specific issues we had with LCPS. While Mr. Sorokin and I differ in opinion and values on almost everything, it was refreshing to have dialogue and debate together in a civil manner. We desperately need more of this. Our public school system is a cooperation of parents, students, teachers, and admin, and nothing less. This current setup is flawed in almost every way, alienating the parents, dehumanizing our children, and forcing teachers to make a false choice between losing their jobs or abandoning their values that they hold dear to serve and teach the children. Dr. Ziegler, Mrs. Sheridan, you are accountable for this mess, and as leaders, you are directly accountable for your lies and deceit. The evidence released this week clearly provides support to that end. It's time for you all to maybe do the scariest thing you've ever had to do in your life. Tell the truth and resign.
Mike Taylor.
We're all out there in the cold.
Joanne Musselman.
How long is this going to keep going on, Brenda? Will you respond to my email, please, at least? That'd be the least you could do.
Mr. Ziegler and the school board need to resign. You have failed at your duties.
Ma'am, please wait. Thank you.
Mr. Ziegler and the school board need to resign. You have failed at your duties of keeping your students safe. It is your job to educate. Instead, you are trying to push your political agendas and beliefs. You are not the parents. I'm a mother, and I choose what is best for my child, not you. I will raise my child with values and morals, not you. The LCPS mission statement says the mission of the Loudoun County Public Schools is to work closely with students, families, and the community to provide a superior education, safe schools, and a climate for success. You have failed. You are not working with families. You're doing what you can to silence us by limiting the number of parents that are able to speak, shortening speaking time, not allowing parents into the board meetings, and doxing parents on social media. The mission statement says you will provide safe schools. This is a lie, as evidenced in the 2 unreported sexual assault incidents at 2 LCPS schools, which were by the same attacker. LCPS does not create a climate for success when you're telling some students that they are oppressors and other students that they are victims. This is called gaslighting. You are creating segregation under the false pursuit of social justice. You are bullying our children to conform to your belief system. Pensacola.
Leslie McGrath. Megan Clegg.
I'm an alumnus of LCPS and have been an avid supporter of public schools my whole life. The current leadership and social climate in LCPS has me on alert. I'm genuinely concerned for the safety of my 4 daughters. Here are a few examples of what our family has battled this past year. Middle school agendas with artwork pushing a political movement, sexually explicit material being handed to children, and librarians telling students to not go crying to your parents if you read an inappropriate book. Most alarming, this past spring, my daughter was cast in a play, which was to be performed in front of our community, where 4 adults met up to have group sex. Neither the principal nor the teacher followed policy 8610, and my daughter was exposed to content that greatly traumatized her. I reached out to Mr. Sirotkin for his help, and he assured me he would take care of it. I never heard back. Is anyone on this board concerned about the safety of our children? If not, resign.
Carolyn Clegg.
That's me. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah? Sorry. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. I'm thankful to get to share my story today and speak up about the reckless nature within our schools. Earlier this year, I was exposed to sexual material by a former LCPS employee. I came to the June 22nd school board meeting to ask for reform to make Loudoun schools safe again. As you may have guessed, I was unable to tell my story, but after hearing the stories of the 2 sexual assault victims and this school board's reaction to those victims, I'm not sure if you would have listened to my story at all. I speak on behalf of the children of Loudoun County. Sexual harassment and assault should not be ignored by the people in charge of the school system. I ask you to do better, not for yourselves, but for the safety of students in your county. I'm praying that that change is coming and that students can have a safe school environment again. Please resign. I have extra time, so I'm going to say more. I've been standing out in the cold. You didn't hear me the first time I tried to talk, and this has been going on for a really long time, and I've experienced so much trauma, and it feels like you guys don't care.
Andrea Weisskopf.
Good evening. First, I want to say that I don't know all the facts surrounding those 2 sexual assault cases, but if you knew, shame on you. But this is my teacher voice. A lot of times my friends get mad at me and tell me to stop sounding like a teacher. But this is my teacher voice. Do not let circumstances surrounding the election and people coming into the county keep you from keeping the pressure on ensuring we have equity, that all children are safe and affirmed in their classrooms. This is my job as an educator, not only to teach the children of this county, but to make sure they know they are worth it, that they are valued. Thank you. Black Lives Matter.
Amy Paul. I called the next speaker during virtual. Can you confirm that Bruce Stover is in person? Bruce Stover.
Hello. I spent a lot of time, like everybody else, writing the same thing that everybody else has said to you tonight. So it makes no sense for me to go over that again and say again how incompetent how you guys are and why. And it comes down to like 5 words that are really important. Excuse me, can you look this way? Excuse me, hello, school board. You're looking down. This is the respect that you show the people who you work for. You work for us. You're fired. You don't have the respect to even look us in the eye when we're here talking. You keep us outside in the cold. You're worthless. Ziegler, I've seen you lie in court. I've seen you lie here. Your job is on the line. Somewhere there's a village missing an idiot. Maybe you should go there and apply. Good luck.
Jennifer Paddock. Chris Candace Tuck. Mike Smith.
I'm a father of 2 young girls who, at least for now, attend LCPS, and you are the LCPS school board, at least for now. I might remind you that you are elected by us, the parents, and not some national school board overlord. You are tasked with the responsibility of overseeing the education of our sons and daughters. You might refer to them as students, but while they walk the school halls and sit at school desks, they are still our sons and daughters, and it is your job to ensure that they are safe and are provided the best learning environment possible. As usual, you have failed, and this time in the worst way. Not only should you all resign immediately, but you should also be investigated. You lied, you obstructed, you defiled those seats with your own hate, your politics and corruption. You weaponized the resources those seats provide to silence concerned parents and keep us in the dark. I have just one question for you. How's that working for you?
Congratulations, guys, you did it. You guys graduated from being disgraced to pedophiles and morons of the school board. Congratulations. This is coming from an Iranian dad who survived that battlefield. You guys are so miserable in your life that you want to teach the kids the wrong things, and you allow this garbage to happen and keep it hidden? Ziegler, where are you? Huh? Why aren't you resigning? Yeah, keep staring at me, because this war is not over. You're gonna play the game, we play it better, and we're gonna win. We're gonna make sure the school system crumbles. We're gonna take our kids out, we're gonna defund the schools. Our kids are coming out of the schools, and you guys will not have a place. You guys are the disgrace. You guys are the pedophiles. You guys are playing to the hand of the pedophiles. I'll keep repeating, I am your master, you are the servants. We put you guys in those chairs.
Amanda Darby.
My children are now in private school and are thriving. We had specifically moved into LCPS district because of its great reputation, yet we've been chased out of LCPS due to the swift and uncompromising political agenda of Superintendents Williams, Ziegler, and the school board that have forced upon us. First, it was in early spring of 2020 when my 6-year-old somberly came to me and asked me if she was born evil because she was a white person, something she learned in a history lesson at school. Then you kept the schools closed for a year and a half despite the science indicating that it was safe for kids to return. And now you've covered up a rape, then arrested, humiliated, and falsely accused her parents of being domestic terrorists. I wish I could return my kids to LCPS. Private school is expensive, and I want my kids to be able to walk home from school with their friends in their own community. I refuse to allow you to destroy our schools. They are not your schools, they are our schools. You all should be ashamed, and you should have the moral courage to admit you are wrong and step down.
Allison Susie.
Mr. Hoyler, I'm glad that you're here. Ms. Bartz, I'm glad that you're leaving. A dear friend of mine was on your hit list of people that you wanted to illegally silence because they didn't agree with you. But in about a week, you will be silenced, and I hope some of your fellow board members will follow suit. But I'm actually here because I have a 14-year-old daughter who will be walking the halls of Broad Run High School, and unfortunately, I don't trust you with her care. It's hard to do that when you knowingly unleashed a rapist into that school and then you lied about it. You could have supported transgender students and been honest about what happened at Stonebridge, but you thought lying would be easier, and you got caught. And I couldn't help but notice the rules for this meeting, which state there will be no public access to bathrooms or other facilities inside the LCPS administrative offices. I guess you wanted to make absolutely certain that your restrooms were safe. Resign or be removed.
Charles Izzo. Gary Higgins.
Good evening. I have some questions I would like to leave with you tonight, and I'll follow them up with an email. First one's rhetorical. I guess your resolution tonight recognizing family and community engagement works by making people stand outside in the cold and wait for hours to speak with you. My second question is, do you think that parents who speak out at school board meetings are domestic terrorists? Both the VSBA and now the NSBA have said that they do not agree with that. Mr. Ziegler, how could you sit up there in June and tell us that there was no sexual assaults in Loudoun County? I would also like to know who made the decision to put the young man that was convicted of sexual assault back in the classroom so he could do it again. And then my last question is, I would like to know who is paying Ms. Bart's legal fees. I certainly hope it is not the taxpayers.
This is my first time speaking at a school board meeting, but I can no longer remain silent. I have 4 young daughters, the oldest of which just entered Loudoun County Public Schools. I'm extremely concerned about the sexual assaults which occurred. A school should be a safe place for children to come, not a place for the highest levels of leadership of the school district to cover up what happens in the district. Let me get this straight. A high school student sexually assaults another student and the penalty is to move him to another school with an ankle brace. That's lunacy. What is also lunacy is lying to the victim's father in a public meeting about it, and then he's the one that gets in trouble. That is calling good evil and evil good. Your policies are contributing to creating an unsafe environment in the schools. I do not want boys in my daughter's bathrooms. I do not want boys on my daughter's sports teams. How can I, as a father, trust you as a superintendent and you as a school board to keep my daughter safe at school? Why would I want to entrust you with all of our daughters once they become school age? The answer is I can't. Dr. Ziegler, I ask you to resign, and all the board members, I ask you to resign as well.
David Lincoln. Melina Frazier. Danielle Wilson.
Specifically, after adjudication, juvenile judge Brooks found there to be facts sufficient that he did on May 28, 2021, commit forcible sodomy, forcible fellatio by way of force, threat, victim helplessness. You guys set this up and allowed this to happen and covered this up. The predator transgender student / person does exist. I am asking you guys, if you have any shred of decency, to go ahead and vote to remove from the NSBA. I'm also going to ask for all of your guys' resignations. On top of that, I'm also going to ask for the resignation of the state superintendent, James F. Lane, and Viola Garisa, who also set up to send the letter to the NSBA trying to stop us parents from going forward. I have 3 children in this district, okay? My oldest goes with her friends and they do buddy trips to the bathroom. This is what you have caused through your lack of inaction and protection. Disgusted with all of you.
So I can't believe I'm about to say this, but a week and a half ago, a member of this school board stepped up and did the right thing. And now, you all don't have your human shield to take the slings and arrows. So the spotlight of accountability turns to you. And nowhere does that spotlight burn brighter than you, Chairwoman Sheridan. You are the leader of this school board. You have been for 2 years. You have overseen the worst public body in the country, and the buck stops with you. You knew when Superintendent Ziegler got up there and lied, that wasn't a misunderstanding, and you said nothing. And you did nothing to keep the kid out of schools. And I know you all think that we're done with Miss Bartz, so we're done. But here's the message. The truth will come out, justice will prevail, and we will see you in court.